Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we're tackling a really big question, one that starts deep inside us, but, well, it ripples out way further than you might think. Why does becoming your unique self, this idea called individuation, actually matter for, get this, the entire future of humanity? Okay, let's unpack this. Our mission today is to really explore that link between our own inner work and the evolution of a genuinely unified, maybe even planetary civilization.
It's quite a scope, isn't it? From like the individual mind all the way to, well, the whole planet working together. And what's really compelling, I think, is how fundamental it is. We're going to look at how things like self-awareness, personal integrity, they aren't just nice to haves for you personally. They're, in a way, the basic building blocks, the very seeds needed to grow what some people call a planetary Type 1 civilization. So for you listening, your journey, your growth, it's not just private. It's a direct contribution to something, well, huge.
That's a powerful idea. Seeds of a planetary Type 1 civilization. Now, you mentioned Type 1 civilization. For listeners who might not be familiar, could we just quickly touch on what that actually means? Because it sets quite a stage.
Oh, absolutely. Good point. It's key context. So there's this scale, the Kardashev scale, right? It ranks civilizations by energy use. A Type 1 civilization is basically one that has mastered its home planet. It's harnessed all the energy available there. Think, global power grids, maybe controlling the climate, managing resources super efficiently. Essentially, it's a unified society running its planet like a single sustainable system. And our personal development, believe it or not, builds the kind of psychological and social groundwork you'd need for that huge leap. Without inner coherence, the outer stuff, it just can't happen.
Okay, that really connects the dots. Which brings us right back to individuation. It can sound a bit, well, academic, maybe even a little daunting. Before we link it right up to planetary mastery, can we get a really simple, clear definition? What is individuation at its heart?
Sure thing. Let's break it down. Fundamentally, individuation is the process of becoming a whole, distinct individual. Think of it like a lifelong journey. It's about self-discovery, yes, but also deep integration. You're bringing together all the parts of your personality, the conscious stuff you know about, and the unconscious stuff, maybe things you've pushed down or ignored. It's about finding your authentic self, your unique essence, and kind of knitting all those pieces together into a complete whole. And importantly, it's not about becoming isolated or selfish. It's about becoming so fully you that you can actually give your unique gifts back to the world.
Right, becoming truly you, not just who you've been told to be or learned to be. It makes sense. Okay, here's where it gets really interesting for me, and I bet for our listeners too. How does something so personal, so internal, actually impact something enormous like a planetary civilization? It sounds like a big jump. How does my inner work translate to, global evolution? How does it build that infrastructure you talked about?
Yeah, that's the crucial link, isn't it? And it's less of a leap when you look at the mechanics. We tend to think of self-awareness or shadow work, facing those uncomfortable bits of ourselves, or personal integrity, acting in line with our values. We see them as private, but they're really not. When people genuinely do this work, they develop deeper self-awareness, sure, but that almost always leads to more empathy for others too. You start understanding your own internal conflicts, your biases. You take responsibility for your reactions instead of just blaming others. Now think about that happening on a larger scale. If enough people start managing their own inner conflicts through, say, shadow work, imagine the collective energy we currently waste on blame, on tribalism, on projecting our issues onto other groups or nations. That energy could be freed up. Think how much faster we could tackle climate change or resource issues or political stalemates if that conflict energy was actually used for collaboration. That's a direct step towards Type 1 functionality. It builds trust, fosters real understanding, and creates the headspace for collective action.
That's a really compelling way to put it. Redirecting that wasted energy. The source material has this great analogy. It says every individual is a cell in Earth's body. Could you unpack that a bit more? What does that really imply about how we're connected and our responsibility? And maybe what happens if some cells aren't, healthy or individuated?
Well, it's a perfect analogy. Yeah, really captures the interconnectedness. Just like a healthy body needs all its cells to be healthy, functioning well, working together, a thriving planetary civilization needs individuated, integrated, responsible individuals. Each person, each cell matters to the whole system. And to your point about unhealthy cells, well, cells in a body are damaged or dysfunctional or just acting selfishly, the whole organism suffers, right? It's similar with us. If individuals are fragmented, largely unconscious, projecting their unresolved stuff everywhere, lacking integrity, it creates friction, disunity, Conflict. That shows up as social problems, international disputes, and the inability to cooperate on the big stuff. So seeing ourselves as cells in this larger Earth body, it shifts your perspective. You're not isolated, you're integral. And that naturally fosters a sense of shared purpose. My health, my integrity, it actually contributes to the planet's health. It helps us act together like a coherent organism instead of just a bunch of separate competing parts. It's the difference between a symphony and just noise.
Wow. So it's like planetary citizenship starts with self-awareness. That really reframes things. Okay, so this isn't just abstract philosophy. What does this mean for us right now? For someone listening thinking, okay, great, but I'm just one person, one cell. What can I do? Can you give us some concrete, actionable steps, things anyone can start doing, maybe even today, to move towards individuation and therefore contribute to this bigger picture, especially for listeners maybe already doing some personal growth work? How can we deepen these practices with this collective impact in mind?
Absolutely. Let's make it practical. These aren't just concepts, they're daily practices. I can offer 3 steps framed not just for personal benefit, but as real contributions to that Type 1 future. First, cultivate advanced self-awareness. Go beyond just noticing your thoughts. Focus on spotting your default narrative loops. Those automatic stories you tell yourself about why someone did something or why a situation is the way it is. Like, do you instantly assume your boss is being critical or that another country's actions are purely hostile? Questioning those automatic stories is key. Maybe try narrative journaling. Write down an event, then consciously try rewriting it from, say, 3 totally different viewpoints, especially ones you disagree with. Or with mindfulness, try focusing specifically on metta-loving-kindness meditation. Extend goodwill not just to yourself or loved ones, but intentionally towards people you find difficult, even towards enemies. This directly works against that us versus them thinking that holds back unity.
That's a great shift. Not just observing, but actively challenging those ingrained stories and biases. That feels much more proactive.
Exactly, which flows right into the second step. Engage in proactive shadow work. This is maybe the toughest, but also the most impactful for the collective. It means courageously looking at, acknowledging, and integrating those parts of yourself you don't like or have suppressed, or maybe even fear, the stuff you might project onto others. The things we criticize most loudly in others often point to something unacknowledged in ourselves.
Right.
That irritation, that judgment, instead of pushing it away, you invite it in. You try to understand where it comes from, what it needs. For example, if you're constantly annoyed by what you see as selfishness in others, maybe explore your own relationship with self-interest, your own needs or fears around it. Doing this work makes you more whole, reduces your own inner conflict, and crucially, stops you from unconsciously dumping your issues onto the world. That cuts down massively on societal friction.
That makes so much sense. So much external conflict really does seem to start with unowned internal stuff being projected outwards. Okay, so we have advanced self-awareness, proactive shadow work. And what's the third piece?
The third is to practice radical personal integrity. This is about consistently aligning what you do and say with your deepest, most authentic values, even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard. It's about living authentically, making sure your actions match your beliefs, not just when people are watching, but in the small, private choices too. It's not about perfection, obviously, but about striving for that coherence between your inner compass and your outer life. When you live with integrity, you build trust. First, within yourself, that creates inner peace. But then, it builds trust in your relationships, your community. Imagine a world, a Type 1 civilization, where trust is higher because individuals operate from integrity. Agreements mean something. Words have weight. Collaboration becomes so much easier. Diplomacy actually works better. It makes the whole system more reliable, more functional.
Wow. Okay. Advanced self-awareness, proactive shadow work, radical personal integrity. It really connects the dots from the deepest personal level right up to this grand collective vision. This deep dive really shows how that individual journey, that path to becoming whole, isn't just self-improvement. It's a vital contribution to, well, to where humanity could go. It really highlights how our personal growth sends ripples out, affecting the whole system, maybe even building the foundation for that planetary future. It makes you think about all those times you blame external factors. This really brings the focus back inside, doesn't it?
It really does. And maybe that leaves you, the listener, with a final thought to chew on after we finish here. What if every single conscious step you take towards your own individuation, every time you choose integrity when it's inconvenient, every shadow part you own instead of project in, what if that's a direct, tangible investment in the planet's future? What if your own inner landscape, your commitment to becoming whole, genuinely holds the power to help shape humanity's path towards becoming that unified Type 1 civilization? The potential answers, well, they lie in the choices you make every day. And that's an incredibly powerful, maybe even slightly awesome thing to consider.